Welcome to Close to Home in Southington. We're here at the Intermediate Saturday Sampler for June of 2022. Make sure you bring in your May's finished block between June 10th and June 30th to receive June's kit free. We're going to begin giving out the kits for June on June 10th. It's a Friday. This month's tool is the little twister, and it works with 5-inch squares. This is the little twister, and 5-inch squares come in packs of favorite fabrics that you can use to make runners, tote bags, and even larger quilts if you'd like. It comes in a second size, a much larger size. This is a large, it's just the twister, and this is made for 10-inch square packs, which we sell here at Close to Home. Classes are beginning with beginning quilting. Starts June 21st. The Sew Together bag is coming up, and that's August 8th. So sign up for those. AccuQuilt Go is coming up June 16th. And of course, the Kimberbell event will be here in Southington on Saturday, June 18th. And it's a 4-hour event where you're going to embroider on oven mitts and a barbecue apron. So please sign up. All right, so let's go take a look at our block for the month. It looks a little bit tricky, but it certainly is not tricky at all. This is what we call the twister, and it pretty simple. We just put our squares together, frame it with a border, and then we begin cutting. I mean, can't get any easier than that. So over here is the first step to creating our twister. It's taking our 5-inch squares. You're going to cut 2 blue, 2 green, 2 multi-florals, and 2 purple 5 inches. And there's going to be a little piece of pink in your kit, and you're going to cut that one of those 5 inches. The short white strips that you're going to get, it's one piece. You're going to cut 2 3-inch by 14-inch white strips, and from the longer piece in your kit, you're going to cut 2 3-inch by 30-inch. 20-inch, 3-inch by 20-inch. Okay, all the directions of cutting are right on your directions. So the fun part is setting out your twister in different patterns. What you want to avoid when you're putting your colors together, your 5-inch squares together, is try to avoid similar fabrics or tones very close together, because we want a nice contrast between each of the twisters to make those stand out better. Okay, so what I've done in the directions is had you start with a blue, purple, green top. So I'll start with that, and we just lay it out. Blue, purple, green. Of course, my pink goes in the center. And the next row is going to be the pink and the blue. See how I got my blues separate from each other? You gotta want to try to get those as far away from each other as possible. The purples are separate, the multis are away from each other, and the green. All right, so we're going to sew a 9 patch, just simply sewing our 5-inch squares together into units together, and then rows, and sewing that 9 patch. After we're done sewing our 9 patch, we want to make sure that all of our seams are going in nice and flat in one direction. So let's go look at the back of this. So when I sewed my first row together, I pressed it in one direction. My middle row, I pressed in the opposite direction. So you have a nice locking of your seams in those intersections. And then of course this one got pressed in this direction. So you'll see that we get really good locking seams when we put our 9 patch together. So here's your top row, middle row, and your bottom row. Next thing I did was I put on my side strips. I pressed those out to the border, and then I put on my 20-inch by 3-inch border strips. Now, you're gonna say, why is this so long? It's okay that it's a little bit longer than my block because we're actually just gonna trim out our twister in the corner. So we don't necessarily care that those are a little bit longer, okay? And it says that in the directions, so don't get too worried about it. All right, so we're going to use this in our twister. Let me put these away. So we make our 9 patch, add our side borders, and add the top and bottom border. All right, it's pretty easy. All right, so I'll turn it this way. So this is, it really doesn't matter which one's my top row, but we are going to start in the corner. So here's our little twister ruler, and you'll notice that it's by Twisted Sisters, and this one's called the Little Twister, and again it uses the 5-inch squares. So the first thing I want to do is orientate my twister ruler so that the north, south, east, and west lines meet right in the center with my seams. So here's the first seam, here's the second seam, and I'm just going to place that right in the corner, always with the little twister writing on the ruler slightly off to the right. And we're going to trim around that. We're going to move it over. We're going to trim again, making sure that those lines, those north, south, east lines are right on our seams, and we're going to cut around that one, and we're going to move it over, line it up, and cut. So I'll cut the first row for you just so that you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see I have extra white or background along the sides of this ruler, and that's what's going to give me a border around the twister. All right, so let's begin. I'm going to start in the my top right corner. And it does have little grips on the bottom of these to hold the ruler in place, but I really like to push down. And one other thing before you start is really give this a nice layer of best press. Mary Ellen's best press on it. It keeps the pieces nice and crisp, and this is going to stretch on you, so you just want to make sure that you have the best press in the fabric before you begin. All right, I tend to put the best press on my kits when I first get them. All right, so hold this right in the place, and then we're just going to trim around this. What you don't want to do is go overcut on your corners, because when I put this tool over into this one, I don't want excess cuts into my square. So you can go just a little bit beyond the squares, but don't exaggerate, just a little bit. All right. All right. So I'll remove my tool, and we have our first piece, and it's kind of, you know, on an angle like this. So all we're going to do is give it a little twist. Set up our next one. Up and give it a little twist. You're going to get 4 out of every single row. Twist, and one more, and this will be the corner one for that row. What I suggest is don't go cutting all of it out. Cut the first row, sew these four pieces together. Okay. All right. So we're going to sew these two together and these two together, and then we'll sew the 2 units together, which I have set up for you here. All right. I'm going to show you again where to put the ruler so that you're going to get the 2nd row, the 3rd row, and the 4th row. And I'll show you how to press these in a second. All right, so after I get my 1st row sewn together, I can just put it aside and we're going to start cutting the 2nd row. So again, where it intersects along the seam line of the border and row 1 and row 2 fabrics, right, like this. So I have the north, south, east, and west. I have my little twister writing just off to the right, and I can go ahead and cut this one. All right. There's number 1. And we're going to push over and find the intersection. That's why it's really important to lock those seams so that you have a nice intersection on your between your squares, so you know exactly where to put that little twister ruler. All right, and we'll cut this one out. So we're just going to continue to cut out our row, follow this row between rows 1 and 2, and we're going to move that over, do the next one. Whoops, if it catches a little, you can just go back and give it a little cut there. All right, and again, a little twist. And we're just going to keep going, cutting the end of row 2. Once I get those 4 sewn, I'm going to go down to row 3, etc., etc. And again, this one's going to be along the border and row 2 and 3. Second one, 3rd one, and 4th one. Okay, and this is where I'm going to find the very last row, just like the 1st row. Again, my little twister writing is off to the corner. I'm lining up my border lines and cutting the 1st one, the 2nd one, 3rd, and 4th. So really what we're left with is a 16 patch. This ruler measures 3.5 inches, so if this was a 3.5 inch square, it's going to finish at 3, which is great because I need a 12-inch finished block. All right, so let's take these down and get these pressed, and we'll sew them together. All right. Make sure my iron's hot. All right, so same with the 9 patch and the borders. You want to make sure that the 1st row is going in one direction, the 2nd row you're pressing in the next, the 3rd row in one direction, and the last row in the opposite. So let's flip these over so we can see the back. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this one this way, this one this way. So I'm just going to turn it around and press it. This one's good, this one I'm going to turn. So they all are going to go to the right because I flipped 2 of them. So make sure you keep these nice and flat. Try not to flip any of your seams. A little bit of heat. This one's next. See how stretchy that is? Just be very gentle. Again, I can't say enough about using the best press on these. I think it's a very, very handy, and it's going to help you a lot. Okay, give it some heat, press down on it. Try not to over iron. Whoopsies. Okay, and then the last one, push it in there, push that over, and push that over, and just give it a hold. All right. All right, so I can flip these two back around the way they were, or maybe it was the other two, it doesn't matter, but now I have one going in this direction, and then that, this direction, and then that. All right. It's a twister. Oh my goodness. Okay, here we are. A little upside down, but I start with the blue, the purple, and the green, and we're going to put these two together, and you can see that this one's going in that direction. This block is going in that direction, and then this one is going in that. So we're going to lock that in. The nice thing about this is that all the colors in this intersection here are going to be the same. So it's not as important, it's important, but it's not as important as trying to get the corners matched and snugged on your 9 patch. Okay, so let's take this over. So this, we don't want to stretch. Keep them right on top of each other. And we're going to try not to flip anything. That's the fun part. All right. So once I get my row started, I'm going to match my 2 seams, lock them in. I can feel under my finger that there's no gap between those. I'm just going to push this through. It's going to grab right there. Find my next block, lock it in, and continue to set. Find my next, lock that seam, and continue. And find my corner, and just go ahead and match my corner up. Okay, so let's take a look at this. All right, so you can see how our twisters are coming out. And we'll do the same to the last 2 rows, and then we'll put them all together. And then what I suggest you do, I think I did it on this one, I can't remember, is once we, oops, sorry Heidi, once we had all of our rows sewn together, I just press them all in one direction. Okay, once we get row 1, 2, 3, and 4 sewn together, I just kind of gave it a little bit of heat, little hold, and I just press those all in one direction. So nice and flat, no big bumps or anything. Comes out very, very easy. And the only thing is your imagination is to try to figure out how many 5-inch squares with a 3-inch border around them you want to do to make your own twister. And again, it could be a runner, could be a tote bag. We have plenty of patterns here for the twister tote bags. Could be a wall hanging. If you want to make them easier, try the 10-inch. That's it for June. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.